Hi, welcome to this next video from Howard Piano Industries. My name is Steve Howard, and we are going to be talking a little bit about when you've got a problem with sticking jacks in a piano action. I'm doing this video now because I'm working on an action that went to tune it the other day, and the customer had tape on about a dozen different notes that she said were sticking. So I looked into it a little bit, just because, as we know, that sticking keys can be caused by a number of different problems, but one of the most common causes is the jack pinning is too tight. So I looked into it a little bit, and I could see that the problem notes were jacks that were sticking, and there were at least a dozen. And as I looked through it, the others, a lot of the others were sluggish, but they weren't necessarily sticking. So they were working, but not working nearly as well as they should. So I talked to the owner and said, really all of the jacks need repinned and reamed so that the holes are the right size for the pins. So I brought the action home. This is a job that I'm charging about $500 for, so it's a timely, but it's going to take me about 6 or 7 hours by the time I'm all done. And some technicians can do it a little faster than that, or some it might take a little bit longer, but it is time consuming, so that's the reason that it costs so much. But just going to kind of go through the process of what we do. I took the action out. This is the back of the action, so you're looking at these are the dampers, which would normally rust up against the string, and of course here's the hammers. So we're on the side of the action that the strings would normally be on, the back of the action, because to take the Whippen out, which is what we have to do to do this job, is the screws are on the back of the action here to take the Whippen out. So I'm going to kind of show you, and this is a similar process as we went through in our video on flange repinning, which I showed on the grand piano hammer flange, but you'll see that it's kind of the same. This action, actually, you'll see, let me show you, but and I've done over half of the piano already. I started here on the top treble end, and I've done up to here, and you can see the reason these that I've done, the back of the Whippen is higher, is because the bridle strap is not attached. So that's kind of, as I go through it, I unhook the bridle strap, and then I'll know where I'm at, because I'm not doing this all in one sitting. I kind of do it, spend an hour at a time and come back and forth, because it's a little bit tiring it's to do it all at once. So, and when you bring the action home too, it makes it a little more convenient. You can do it a little bit here and there. So, but first of all, what I do is I'll go through and unhook the bridle strap on the Whippen that I'm going to take out. So I've already unhooked it on this one. And then the screw is here, so I take my action flange screwdriver, my combination tool handle, and I'll unscrew the flange screw. And usually what you have to do with the ones that are with the dampers is I'll just kind of push up on the damper levers so that they're kind of out of the way. Otherwise, the screwdriver gets caught on the bottom of the damper lever. So take that out, and I could have put the action in my action cradle. I don't know, it seems to sit fairly well, so I didn't bother, but because of that I have to lift up the action to get the Whippen out. Okay, but if I had it in the action cradle, obviously I wouldn't have to do that, but I just didn't take the effort to do that in this particular job. So as we can see, so we've got the Whippen here. Of course, this is the Whippen flange, the spoon, the Whippen body. Here's your jack, back check, bridle wire, and of course there's the jack spring right there. But as you can see, when I push down on the jack, this is supposed to spring back. The spring is supposed to push it up. And some people have asked me, well, should I just replace the springs? Well, that's not really the correct uh, um, repair to do in this case, because it's not the spring that's bad, and sometimes the springs do get weak or whatever, but the reason for this problem is that the pinning for the jack is too tight. Okay, so you've got, now this one doesn't have an actual jack flange. The what's so-called flange for this one is actually built into the Whippen body, but most pianos, most upright pianos, have a separate flange that gets glued to the Whippen body, and then of course the jack gets pinned to the flange. But this one, the jack gets pinned directly to the Whippen body. So there's a hole here that goes through the jack and then through the Whippen body and out the other side. And that hole in the jack is lined with felt. What happens is that felt either swells or gets tight around the pin that goes through that hole to pin those two pieces together. And so the jack doesn't move as freely as I can. And as soon as we're done with this, you're going to see that jack is just going to move much more freely. So first thing we're going to do, I'll take my center pin tool here, and I'm going to push the center pin out on the jack. And when you do this, you want to make sure you're careful not to push the bushing out. So make sure you get it right in the center, because if you push your bushing out, then you either have to rebush the bushing or do a new part. Okay, so I took the pin out. Normally, at least the first time, I would measure the pin to see what size pin I've got, because there's a whole bunch of different sizes. And that's not necessarily the same size pin that I'm going to put back in. It just depends on what the right size is for this. And so, for example, and the other thing is, sometimes I get the question, will the same size pin be used for the whole action? Sometimes, I think usually it is, but in this case, the whole treble section, this whole section up here, there were size 21 pins in it. Okay, and actually in a couple of these in this section, I had to go up to 21 and a half because the pin was too loose in the bird's eye. But the way you determine what size pin is best for this, and I'm sorry, let me finish my thought. So these all had size 21 pins. This section so far are all size 21 and a half pins. Okay, so they're 53 thousandths instead of 52 thousandths of an inch. So it's, in this case, they didn't use the same, and I haven't gotten to the base section yet, so I'm not sure if those are going to be the same size as the middle section or different or whatever, but I'll see when I get there. What I've actually, in this whole section, there was 21 and a half, size 21 and a half pins, but I've actually had to go up to 22 because 21 were, even though they were tight in the jack, they were too loose in the Whippen or the jack flange if it had a flange. So I'll show you, if I go to, say if I go to a 21 and a half, okay, and if this one is the same as all the rest that I've checked, this is going to be too loose. Okay, you want it to be really tight in this part of the connection. Okay, but if I push it in, oh, no, that one's pretty tight. Okay, but if you go to try to put the pin in, I got to try to take it out because it's tight. So if you try to go to put the pin in, and you can push it all the way through with your fingers, that means the pin is too small. Okay, so you want to go up to the next size. And if you go up to the next size and it's still goes, you can push it through with your fingers, then you got to go up to the next size. So you do that until you get to a size that you cannot push the pin all the way through. Okay, now this one is different than the rest. I could probably still go up to a 22, which I did for most of these. But this one, 21 and a half, is tight enough. So what I'll do then, as you can see, if I try to push that in into the jack. It's really tight. I mean, I can push it in, but it definitely shouldn't be that tight. So we use our flange bushing broach kit right here, and what these are, they've got a smooth part of the shaft, and we've got 8 different sizes, and it corresponds to the size of the center pin. So size 21.5 is the same as 53 thousandths. So this one's got a 53 on it to show that it's for size 21.5. So it's got the smooth part of the tool, and then right here, you probably can't see this in the video, but there's kind of a roughened spot on this, and what that roughened spot does is it tears away just a little bit of the bushing cloth inside there to enlarge the hole. So it takes away some of the material, and it doesn't take very much. It just does a little tiny bit at a time, and I can actually see that when I go through that and push and run that through this part of the tool. Not only can I hear it tearing, you can kind of feel that rough spot, but then I get little powder of red powder, and that's the bushing cloth actually. And you want to do it a few times and you get a feel for this, how tight that's going to be. When I first put it in, it was really, really tight to go through. But I don't know if you can see the little bit of red dust in there, and that's from what we're taking, the material that we're taking away from the inside of the bushing to enlarge that hole. Now if I take my pin again and push it in, see there's some resistance, but it moves fairly smoothly now. I check both sides. See, that side's a little bit tighter, so what I'm going to do is just take my bushing cloth and just run it through that rough part through that one side. And that'll enlarge that hole. And then there's the smooth part you can kind of use to burnish it a little bit. So that smooths the hole off and kind of packs down the felt. So we're going to try that again. See, that feels a lot better now. It goes in, and I know on the video you can't see how much pressure I'm having to put on it, but I can just definitely tell. And you get a feel for it as you do more. So we're going to pin this back on. So we'll put the jack back on the Whippen, line up the holes, put the pin in. You can kind of feel when the pin hits the hole. Take the other side of my pinning tool, my repinning tool, and push the pin in. Okay, and of course you got the end coming out there, which we'll cut off. But before we do that, I'm going to put my jack in, or my spring in there, and check the tightness. Okay, you can tell before that jack didn't move anywhere, but if I push it down, it about just bounces right back. Now you don't want it too loose, because then it's going to wobble and the pin's could come out, and it'll just be sloppy. But you want the kind of the balance between too tight and not too tight. So, but you want that jack to be able to move freely, so that when the Whippen goes up, the jack's going to fall back underneath the hammer butt. And that was why the keys were sticking, because the jack would come forward, but because it didn't fall back underneath the hammer butt, when you release the key, when this went up, it wouldn't be pushing the hammer anymore, so the hammer wouldn't play. And we should talk about that more in another video, but that's kind of how you want it. And so then we'll put the jack back in, and I'll move on to the next one, and we'll cut the center pin off, that little tail, and move on to the next one. So it's a big job, but the customer wanted it done, and obviously to have the piano play it needed this job to be done. You know, some people will ask me, well, can't you just use Protect CLP? Well, Protect CLP will work in some cases. If it's not too severe, if it's just a minor problem, the Protect CLP will do it, and it might do it help some on more severe problems, but it may be just a temporary fix. So this is really the correct repair for this kind of a situation in most cases, and it is a fairly common issue. So it's you know, something that needs to be done from time to time. So, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or want to watch our other videos, visit our website. It's howardpianoindustries.com.